So here I am once again working on a new project, and as always I start out with my method of using a digital doll. As you can see, this is my character here, Laura, and I always wanted to do a science fiction project. I figured it's time for me to jump in. So this is at the super early stage, like this is right at the beginning and I'm taking you along with me. And already, just starting out, I already have so much data and information to share. So let's just do a very quick breakdown of the character. As always, I start out with this body here as a reference, and then I start adding the elements that I want. So let's go through, and you can see, even though everything doesn't line up perfectly, I just need the body underneath as a reference. So in the end, the body will just be hidden. So it doesn't matter if it lines up exactly, I just need to get a general idea of the proportions. So now that you can see, this is her clothing, her outfit here, and you can see the reference underneath. And it's just a simple matter of just hiding that. And now that's the final right there. For this project, I decided that I wanted to introduce the character wearing a helmet. Once again, I won't go too deep right here, but I'm in 3D Studio Max. And if you watch my other videos, you know that this is a method I use often where I block out the idea I have first in 3D and then generate an image within 3D and then use that image to generate the final render within AI. And what you're looking at here is a 3D model of the helmet design. I only worked on one side because I'm only going to render it from one angle, and this is kind of like a perspective or a 3/4 view so that the AI can see that there's more to the helmet, because I didn't want to do a front view because I know I would take this view and then tell the AI to render a front view for me, which I did. I don't have to work on every single detail. I just need a general look and a general shape of what I want, and the more detail, obviously, the more accurate the AI will be, but I didn't need to go in on every detail. So let's look at some of the AI renders. So here are some quick images of the line art that was created that I'll use to feed into the AI. So as you can see here, this image, actually I used both of these images from the side and front and told the AI to combine these and create this image here. So this is the original image, and then this is what I got out of the AI. And then the prompt right down here, a sci-fi space helmet made with metal and plastic with 3 glowing blue circular lights at the front. Convert the line art to a photorealistic image. And this is what was created. Let's look at a few of the variations because I'm never going to stick with the very first. This was a second variation. Even though I like the color and the paint, I'm going for a more desaturated earth color vibe, and it got the eyes wrong. I only wanted 3 eyes, but eventually I settled on 4 because. Another version right here of a painted version, and each one has things that I like. I was trying to get a front view. It made it a little bit wide. At this point, I was like obsessed with the helmet design because there were so much variations, but I never felt any of them were perfect, and you could see it kept on changing. But once I picked the one I liked, I knew that was going to be the one I would use always. So that's why I was so very picky in choosing one that I knew I could live with forever. So many variations. This is a failed version of the helmet. Looks nothing like what I wanted, but it's there. Another failed version of the helmet. So this is some cool versions of the helmet right here. This looks almost exactly to the 3D concept. I actually used this 3D model. I used this image as the base image to get these. I really like this, the front of this one right here. More variations, and the eyes, this one is really nice actually. I like the symmetry. I eventually got rid of the little antennas at the top because it looked too much like rabbit ears or cat ears or something like that, so I didn't want that vibe, so I got rid of those. I know you're all probably very sick of seeing helmets at this point, but what I want to demonstrate here is not all sketch to image or image to image look the same. You don't get the same result all the time from different platforms. Right now I'm on Design, and Design, their versions looked very different from Sora's. This was more metallic, and maybe if I prompted a more grittier look, I would have gotten that. But I didn't really want to explore this further because I was happy with the look I was getting from Sora. So I continued to use Sora and pretty much abandoned these ones. And these ones didn't work out well. I reduced the creativity level of the AI, so the AI pretty much kept it as line art. Still obsessed with more helmets, so here I'm trying out the glass visor version. I'm trying to find a reflectiveness that looks good. A lot of the reflectiveness that are on these, they look good, but if you really look at them, they're studio lights. And she's going to be in space, and there's no studio lights in space, so I had to find one where the reflection didn't look too much like studio lights. You can see these ones here have space reflected in them, even though they don't look as reflective as the one with the studio lights. For a closer look at the helmet, I created a separate independent file from the body, just so I could really get the details. Let's check out the different modes. This mode is where you'll see her face. So if she's speaking, you could see her mouth. If she's in a situation where she still wants the visor but needs to speak. This mode is where the entire face is gone and no visor. This is where you really want to see the facial acting. I've also wanted a mode where she could still have her face protected but see her face. So I created a glass version where it's a glass. Obviously when her face is behind it, I'll make it a little bit transparent so you could see, or translucent so you could see through it. And then there'll be modes where it's solid like this, where it's tinted and you can't see. So this is a really high resolution file, and I could do close-ups of her face and things like that, and even animate maybe the helmet going on and off in different modes. So just by hiding her head and unhiding the helmet, you can see the character is now wearing a helmet. So I could unhide her head, and here you can see, even though it's not perfectly aligned, you can start revealing elements of her face. When I'm ready to actually do the shots, I'll align the helmet to fit a little better, but just now I just needed to have everything combined in the scene, so when I'm ready to do a shot, I could then make the adjustments to have her face fit properly. I also did a quick 3D layout of the armor that she's wearing on her torso. You could see here I used this model of a woman that I normally use just to get the proportions generally right. And again, I'm not trying to be exact, I'm just trying to get the larger shapes that I see and the outline that I see. So here are some quick images of the line art that was created that I'll use to feed into the AI. I done a front view of the armor and a quarter view right here. So what we're looking at right now is the armor. This was the very first armor, and you can see the circle in the middle. I always intended to put my logo right there, so that's why that space was there, and that's why it was good to model that with the 3D model so that I could specifically have that spot. And that's why doing sketch to image or image to image is such an important thing for me, because I have so much control of the shapes. And this is another version. It started rendering versions with the body. And I'm not concerned about the body at this point. I just want the armor. I won't go through every single one by one, but just to show you how much versions there were. I did render a lot. And then I kept on trying versions of the helmet here. Over and over. This is her robotic gloves. Trying several versions. I think this was the one I ended up going with right here. The concept for this glove is based on an image that I found on Pinterest. And you know I always like looking around on Pinterest. That's the original. When I started out, this concept here was the original concept that I was going to go with for her outfit. And unintentionally, as I started working with the armor and the helmet, I ended up not going with this concept. However, I may use this concept for later on in the story. And these were some other potential looks for her for this project. And as you know, that a lot of these clothing items came from Pinterest. This is the original right here. And those images were used as reference to create variations, not identical. I even like this concept was a possibility, but you can see in my previous video on the fashion and how I create fashion, that's where this stuff came in. So as I started exploring with the armor, I started to get images that looked like this, and had no intention of ever using this, but I really started to fall in love with the look. This outfit really started to match the look of the armor, even though it wasn't what I had in mind. So I really started to focus on using this concept. I like the idea of her having robotic boots to match the robotic gloves, kind of give her some extra power when she's on an alien planet. Different versions of the body, and here are several versions of the boots, trying different looks. Here we have some variations of the boots. I tried doing a more chrome look and a more softer rounded look. I didn't like it as much as I like the dirty and more square look. Even though they do look cool, I really like these. Still a bit too bulky. I tried to go with a streamlined version as well. Did not like it at all. So this was supposed to be a more streamlined version, but it looked too skinny. Another variation on it, actually. This one got high heels. I mean, for a different project it might work, but not for this one. Within the story, Laura is traveling through space in a ship, and her ship crash lands on this planet. And from the ground looking up to the sky, her ship appears to look like a comet. I was trying to get her ship to fly across the sky in the way that I wanted. I realized I had some video credits here with Sora, so I was trying to get just on a black background because I could probably remove the black background later. Most attempts for getting it to fly across the screen were unsuccessful. I'll revisit that at another time when I'm actually ready to do the shots. This last one here on the left is probably my favorite of them all, even though it does all this weird camera movement. And here I'm playing around with posing and to see how well the AI could pose the character. And even though the poses look good, I realize that it doesn't keep the consistency. And that's always going to be a problem. But this is what the original character's outfit looks like. But when you look at this, a lot of the things were changed. My logo is no longer there. The helmet had these extra eyes at the side. And there are a lot of small changes that I didn't really like. So even though it looks good as an image, for my purpose, it's unusable. So right here, I'm experimenting with getting the character to turn around so we can see her back. Because I know there's going to be a few shots where we're going to have to see a rear view of the character. And in this case, it did come out okay. It looks pretty consistent. I think this one, the boots look a lot more consistent. And there's two versions. I think I might end up going with this one, but that said, I also like the straps on her back here. But you know me, what I'm going to do is bring these both into Photoshop and take elements from each that I like and combine them to look as much like the final result or the front view as possible. These are interesting right here because I was trying to get the glove to make a fist, so if I needed an image of her making a fist, I could use it. But for some reason, it kept on creating a fist at the top and a hand at the bottom. These right here, I just wanted to get a reverse view of the glove, which one of them was successful. This one looks okay, This one, not as much, but again, I could always go in and take what I want and then use it in Photoshop. And then here are some more fist views. I tried to add fingernails, which I didn't like. I finally got a few fist views that I could use. So I just got to pick between one of these, which I think probably this one is the closest. This is the Kling website. And one of the things I like about Kling is that even though I'm out of credits, I get 60 free credits every day. So these are not final images or final videos, but because I get free credits every day, it's equal to about 3 standard videos every day. So I do tests just to get a feel of the environment and the characters. And because it's free, I could do 3 tests every day just as I'm working on developing the story and developing other parts while I'm working in Photoshop. What we're looking at here is the environment. And I was trying to get an image of her ship crash landing. Her ship is supposed to look like a comet falling from the sky and then crashing over into the horizon. But I could never get the prompt to work, so I might have to find a way to work around that. At this point, it's not important because I'm still trying to develop. So none of these are final images. These are just tests for me to get a feel of what is possible. And then from this stage, I will use this as a reference to work my way towards a visual that I am happy with. This shot here was one of my favorites. This shot would look really good for when the ship crashes into the horizon and having this kind of blue electric explosion. Just a bit of a close-up, nice camera movement, moving in slowly, and you could see the little plants blowing in the wind. So here we have another failed attempt. I thought it was going to work because it started nice and then it just did this weird turn. Kling also has a feature that you can add or remove stuff into an existing video. So this was just a fun test I did just to see what it would look like if the character was in the environment. So this is an important stage where I start doing character animation tests. And the reason why it's important is because even though that these images will not be used in the final video, I use these to create character poses so that she's just not standing in the default pose. I take snapshots from these and upscale them and then bring them into Photoshop, correct if there's any deformations or any mistakes, and then I'll use that to compose scenes and shots. It also works as a great way to get other views of the character. In this case, you could see her back because in Photoshop, I never created her back. I only created her from the front view. So then I could take this view of her back, take a snapshot, bring that into Photoshop. If there's anything I don't like, change, remove, or even add elements, and then use that as her back view. So that's how you use the AI to help you and work for you. All I had to do was focus on creating her front, and then the AI went in and created most of her back. It's not perfect, so it gets me 90% of the way, and then the other 10% is me fixing it up and making sure that it matches what I want it to look like. Just some more tests right here. Again, important to have just like turnarounds, different angles of the character. So this is more just to get like a side view, and you notice that the AI is hallucinating by creating a giant ponytail in the back of her hair. My character doesn't have that. So I'll have to do a snapshot, again, bring it into Photoshop, remove that part in Photoshop, fix whatever, and then I could use this image from a different angle to generate more videos and different angles, different poses of the character. What's important is that using this method to get different views of the character works a lot better than using Sora. Sora will always modify, change the style, change the character. When you do it this way, it keeps the character very, very, very consistent, more so than any other method. What you have to make sure is use the highest quality of resolution, so Pro mode or 1080p, and then once you get the still image, you make sure you upscale that to as high as you can. Let's talk about story. This is my weak point. I'm not a writer, so this is something that I never put too much energy into. I've never tried using AI to help me to write before, but I figured let's give it a shot and see if AI can help me become a better writer. I already have an idea of where I want the story to go. I just want to see if I could get the details. For my first attempt, I was very overwhelmed because it gave me so much information on a simple question, which is good because you want all the ideas that you can get, but it was just so much for me to read through. So what I discovered was it's easier for me to just have it dictate what was said, and I could sit back and listen as if it was a podcast. So
Night presses in on the cracked gray flats as Laura crawls from the spherical pod, suit vents hissing. A single strip of fuel cell light on her wrist HUD blinks red. 2 hours of charge left. She scans the horizon, nothing but wind-carved spires, except that impossible splash of green and shimmering water leagues away.
So you can see there, it can read out the story to you or read out the information to you so you don't have to. You can sit back and relax and listen to the ideas that it's coming up with. And then the next step, you can type the changes you want. But even typing all this stuff can be a pain. So they also have a feature where you could talk to it, but I found speaking to it directly was too fast-paced for me. I couldn't keep up with the going back and forth. What I found works better is dictate. They have a dictation mode where I could click this button and then I could speak and say what I want to type, and then when I hit the checkbox, it will process what I said and then turn that into text. And then I can go in if I want and delete and change and modify the text, which to me is better than talking to it one-on-one in real time. It's easier and a much slower pace for me to think, change, and edit what I want it to do. I want to learn how to communicate with the AI or the language model better so that I could get the answers that I want instead of getting all this information when I only need a little bit of information. A friend of mine said the best thing to do is have it ask me questions and then I answer the questions instead of me telling it what I want, because then it will give me too much.